So you're thinking of buying a VR headset for sim racing. Well, congratulations, because VR sim racing is the best way to do sim racing, but you're not sure what to do next. Well, I'm going to answer some questions for you. Hopefully you're going to find this really helpful. I've been using VR in sim racing for years and years and years and years and years, streamed in VR. I used to use a VR headset just as my monitor. I didn't even have a monitor or TV, just a headset. So I'm going to let you know everything I've learned along the way. So the first thing you need to decide when you're thinking about getting a VR headset for sim racing is, what actual platform do you want to play on? And there's multiple platforms. So for example, there's console, which is basically PlayStation 5, because Xbox doesn't do VR. So you've got PlayStation 5, which obviously means the world of Gran Turismo, and not a lot else. Don't get confused. Just because PlayStation 5 has ACC, because it has Forza Horizon 5, because it may have Rennsport, because it has F125, those other games are not compatible on PSVR 2. If you want to go console sim racing, you're talking Gran Turismo 7, PSVR 2. So hopefully you're already learning stuff. Or you might want to go standalone. So there are standalone headsets like the Meta Quest, which you can go and do stuff like, there's a grid game and there's sort of sim racing games, like a bit arcadey, kind of sim racing games. You can do standalone. The graphics are not very good standalone, understandably, because it's running on the local processor and battery power. But you can take the bundled controllers and you can be sitting around and going sim racing. Or you can do something like a big boy PC sim racing headset. This is where you can do iRacing. This is where you can do Le Mans Ultimate. This is where you can do AC Evo, ACC. By the way, this video is actually, and I don't have to say anything or not say anything, but this video is sponsored by Pimax, who recently invested $2.5 million in Le Mans Ultimate. So Pimax are serious about sim racing, which is probably why they sponsored this video, and there'll be a discount code for MyPacks. But there's a lot of different headsets available for PC, and we're going to talk about them. But basically, if you want to do iRacing, ACC, AC Evo, the F1 game, loads of other sim racing games, Automobilista 2, you need to be on a PC sim racing VR headset. Now, some of the standalone headsets do both. A Meta Quest 3 you can also use on a PC. The original Pimax Crystal is technically a standalone headset, but you can also use it on PC. To be honest, I would just use it on PC. I wouldn't use it standalone. So firstly, think about your platform, because if you've come here and you said, I want to do Gran Turismo 7 in VR, the answer is simple. Get the PSVR 2 headset. Bosh, done. If your answer is, I want to do iRacing, okay, well now you want to think about, what am I running? What's my graphics card? How much power do I have? What kind of resolution do I want to do? And also, and this is my second point, you need to think about what's important to you. This is a very personal question. You've probably never seen this in any tech or sim racing video ever. But what about you? Only you will know this. Do you prefer maximum resolution and you compromise on frame rate? Or do you want ultimate frame rate above everything else? I'm an ultimate frame rate kind of guy. I just want the maximum frame rate. I'm not interested in, getting down to choppy frame rates unless I'm experimenting with stuff. I want to be buttery smooth. I want all my frames and then some. That means I'm not going to be happy with headsets that can't do high frame rates. So I want to be getting up to 90, 100, 120 hertz frame rates. Interestingly, on Gran Turismo 7, that is a 120 hertz game, but really it's 60 hertz with reprojection. And even the PS5 Pro, I bought a PS5 Pro to see if that improved anything, and I put my camera in the lens, and there's still reprojections. That means it's not exactly natively 120 hertz. However, if you're the sort of person where you don't care about high frame rates that much, you want the maximum visual quality, well, you're going to want a different style. You're going to be wanting to max out all your visual settings, and you don't care so much about the frame rate. So you're going to want the most pixels. So for example, Pimax, who sponsors this video, so let's talk about some of their headsets. They make the Pimax Crystal Lite, which I've got here, and they make the Pimax Crystal Super. If you're a frame rate person, I recommend you get the Pimax Crystal Lite over the Super, even though the Super is more expensive, because the Pimax Crystal Lite, this one does 120 hertz. So great. If you want the most resolution, get the Pimax Crystal Super, because that has an unbelievable amount of pixels per eye. It's like retina quality. It's more pixels per eye than the Pimax Crystal Lite. You're going to struggle to run it at a high frame rate. It doesn't do 120 hertz anyway. I think it tops out at 100 or 90 hertz. So think about what you prefer. That's a very, very, very personal question. The other thing is obviously budget. You have to think about budget. I have a headset here from DPVR, which I've reviewed on the channel before. I did a sponsored video, I think, for DPVR. This headset is not as good quality as the Pimax Crystal Lite, but it's much cheaper, and you can tell it's cheaper. The panels aren't as good, it's lower resolution, it's not quite as sturdy. If you look at the top strap, it's not as, it's not going to give you as much support as the Pimax Crystal Lite. However, if your budget limits you, you can't get a Pimax Crystal Lite, well then you can start looking at the budget stuff. However, if you're coming into VR sim racing and you have a big ass budget, don't be afraid to look at the proper headsets. Don't be afraid to look at a Pimax Crystal Lite or the Pimax Crystal Super, because if you have the graphics card to run it, you are going to have one of the best experiences you can have in the world right now in sim racing. And I include like enterprise grade level there. There are drivers, real motorsport drivers, driving on sims for their teams that are not going to have as good experience as you if you have a beastly PC and a Pimax Crystal Lite or a Pimax Crystal Super. So if you have the budget, don't be afraid to use it here, because this is an area where you're genuinely getting an incredible level of enjoyment, performance, detail, the whole bang for your buck. The fourth thing I want to talk about is comfort. So we've got now, what platform you want to be on. We know what you prefer in terms of performance and quality. We know what budget you're looking at. Don't sacrifice comfort. This is where you might need to adjust things a little bit. For example, the Pimax Crystal Lite and the Pimax Crystal Super have very different fittings for me in terms of where the pressure is and how they're balanced. And for me, the Pimax Crystal Super is super, super, super nice. Like, it fits my face basically perfectly, it seems. Sometimes it's like a football boot just fits you. The Pimax Crystal Lite, I have to do a bit more work to get it balanced nicely. So it's going to be different for every face. That's just a fact. So have a look at reviews, look at your reviewers' heads maybe. What are they all saying? What are they preferring? Get a good picture and then decide to get something comfortable. Look at your return rights. I know that Pimax have these return rights where I think you can trial it and return it. Make sure you check that out, because comfort is really important. And then we come on to the actual experience of sim racing. Like, if you want to buy a VR sim racing headset and you haven't done it before, you have to be aware that you may have a nauseous experience. Like, it may be that you're just not going to have a good time. I think that could happen to anyone. I think some people just, are just built a certain way that you're, super sensitive and you're very tuned with the world, and therefore a VR headset is just going to make you nauseous. And you're only going to know when you actually trial it. You're only going to know that. So those would be my recommendations when it comes to actually thinking about getting your VR headset. If you found this video helpful, by the way, go to my website, www.simracingdiscounts.com, if you want to see discounts, save you money on VR headsets. But let me know what you're thinking in the comments as well. I really want to do a lot more beginner VR content and really help you guys out from all of the experience I have. So, hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you next time.